Knit To, Cultivate To. This is primarily a fiber arts podcast, but I get up to all kinds of shenanigans while homeschooling my kids. My name is Emily Wood, and I live in Midland, Michigan with my husband and 2 kids, Elias and Stella. Welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome, and if it is not, welcome back. I'm excited to be here. It has been a while. I only have a few things I want to announce, but yeah, it's been a while. We had a vacation, then we got sick, and I will talk all about that in life stuff, as well as I am doing an Accutane run, and my lips are just torn up. So sorry about that, but that's what's happening. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I'm doing that, again, in life stuff. But let's get to some of the announcements. First, I had a giveaway from episode 10. I found and forgot I was going to give these away. So this is the giveaway, and the winner is Judith Botker. So if you send me an email with your address and information, I think it's knit2cultivate2@gmail, but I will have it linked at the top below. But send me an email and let me know where to send your stuff. So thank you for commenting on that post. Next, I keep an eye out. We did record the Woolen Homestead collaboration finally. It was really fun. We were ambitious in how long the project would take. So we're still finishing our projects and adding that end footage in. But I went through yesterday and did some of the video editing, and one of my least favorite parts about this is watching myself. I absolutely hate watching my videos. So we were way less awkward than I thought. So it was good. I'm really excited to put that out there. We made these little baskets, or they're woven baskets, and we made them with scraps, and we were adding nature elements around the end, kind of like a crown at the top, and there'll be little notions trays. Yeah, so I'm really excited to get that video out, and that's all I've got for announcements. Let's move on. Okay, guys, I'm adjusting as I go, as I learn and figure out what I like and don't like about how I'm making my podcast. And I am shifting to instead of talking about each project individually, moving towards, let's just chat about all my finished objects. Then let's just chat about my works in progress. So I'm kind of moving towards that. You know, it's funny because at the beginning I thought the dividers would be nice to show a picture. But then as I started podcasting, I'm like, but I could just show a picture at any time. And I literally didn't think of that. So I'm learning as I go. But the first finished object I showed you last time, and it technically was finished. It's not anymore finished, but it is the Get It Girl bra top by Laura Riker, and it's $5 US. I use Knit Picks Bare Stroll Worsted, which I dyed earlier in the podcast, so this year. But I want to re-show this. Oh, I love it so much. And the pooling turned out so good. So I wanted to show this because I want to show the other finished object, which is gonna go with this, which also doesn't have the ends woven in yet. I saved this because I knew I would be motivated to weave both the ends in at the same time, and I wasn't before. This is the Look at My Holes by James Watts. It's $8 US. I cast this on and finished it since recording last. Well, first, let me show it to you. So, I don't know how well you can see it. It's this mesh, and it's a raglan. And it's got a nice raglan, a stable raglan. Anyway, let me get closer though to see the yarn. It's a variegated, it's Knit Picks Luminescence, which is 100% silk, and it's in the colorway Brave. I held it double. I got this at, why do I feel like I talked about it on the collaboration video. I was editing yesterday. Well, you're gonna hear this again. I got this yarn at the Knit Picks warehouse sale in Columbus. The yarn I bought, I left with an IKEA blue bag full of yarn, bare yarn, roving. So it was so cheap. And this I got a full bag of. The lady at the checkout told me that if I had bought this at full price, because it was like the biggest markdown, she said, of everything in the warehouse. If I had just bought this yarn, it would have cost the entire bag of what I had. And it's expensive. I looked it up, but I did not get it at that price. So anyway, I love this. This is gonna go over the bralette. I'm gonna get a picture after I weave in ends for you. So this is obviously not, I just wanna see if you can see the colors through it. And I have a picture that I'll put up here of my swatches that I did. But then it's gonna be like the color through the dark. This isn't blocked, so it's not open as much as it will be, but I'm really excited about it. But I'm gonna take this a step back and say, for those of you who do knit bralettes, this is my first one, what kind of bras do you wear under this? Or do you not wear one? Yeah, so I'm gonna work on that this week and then block the look at my holes, and that should be, and I'll get pictures and post it because I'm really excited. I might get to wear it once. I don't know what, it's end of August. It's already pretty chilly, in my opinion, in Michigan. So those are my finished objects and I love them. Oh no, I definitely forgot one. I finished the French Market bag, and I don't think I had on the last episode. I knew it was going to be a small market bag because it called for 3 skeins of 24/7 cotton Lion brand, and I used 2. So I knew it wasn't gonna be the full size, which I was fine with. I didn't want to swatch, so I didn't. Yeah, but I like it a lot, and it's great for produce and apples and whatever. And now I'm done with finished objects. Okay, so on to works in progress. I'll share the pattern information now for the last finished object that I tacked on at the end. This was the French Market bag by Alexandra Tavel, which was $4.50 US. So I started a second one using this baby cotton. I think it was Lion brand. I'll add the information. But I bought this to make bow hats at the beginning of summer. And I did not make bow hats out of it. It was absolutely the wrong weight. Anyway, so I've been saving it and not knowing what to do with it. I think I have 3 of them. But I cast on, just in a smaller gauge, another French Market bag. So I'm not changing the pattern at all. I've changed the yarn to a smaller size and the hook to a smaller size. So I'm gonna get a much smaller bag. So this is the size of mesh. So it's gonna be a perfect produce bag instead of the plastic bags. And so I think I'm really excited about the size of it too, to have a smaller bag. But I'm happy with that. The hook size that I have is just too small for the yarn. So it's more fiddly than it needs to be. But I'm just gonna chug through. And so this has been one of my on-the-go projects because it's just really easy. It's an easy pattern. You do like 35 vertical squares, so you're doing the same thing for a long time. So a good project to take with me. I almost wasn't gonna talk about these because I thought I did nothing on them. But the Rose City Rollers by Mara Catherine Briner, I'm making another pair for my daughter Stella. This is the colorway Hot Shot. And I had it, according to my notes, I had just cast on at the last episode. So I obviously have done a lot since I have one done. So I have one finished. It's just a rolled cuff. It has a heel flap and gusset, and then, toe decreases. Very basic recipe. This is the small size, and I'm knitting them on US size 1 needles. I have 4 more stripes of foot. and then I'll be at toe decreases. These are so fast for her. But I haven't touched these, and I'm going to tell you about that next, because I've been working on something kind of obsessively. And not because I'm in love with it, which is kind of more because it was a frustrating start. The next thing I'm working on is the brioche shawl feathers by michaeleen. Not sure if that's how you say her last name. It's about $6.31 US. I cast this on and I'm almost done since the last episode. This was what I worked on vacation the whole time. So the yarn I'm using was, I think this is Stroll. I'm not sure what this yarn is, but I'll look it up and see. I'm sure I can find it. But this is yarn I dyed maybe 2 years ago. And this is radioactive, and this was fluorescent fuchsia, frozen blue, I think, and radioactive. And it created this, the blue mixed with the radioactive created some of these like Kelly greens. And then the fuchsia and the radioactive created this like earthy color, which was nice, kind of muddied a little bit. And then lastly, the frozen and the fuchsia made this gorgeous deep purple. I'm never gonna be able to recreate this yarn, and it was pretty good. But I cast this on. There's two versions, a sport weight version, which is larger, or a 2 skein fingering. I'm gonna show it to you first. So it's brioche. Wow, you can really see the feathers more on camera than I anticipated. I'm gonna tell you how many times I started this. So they're feathers, you can see, maybe this one's, yeah, brioche, squishy. Okay, so I'm gonna show you though first a picture of the original cast on. It has a garter tab cast on, and it has this little crescent section of garter in your background color. So for me, that's the lime green, the radioactive in the back. And this shawl has an I-cord edge. My I-cords are never loose. They're always on the tighter end. So I started it, and the first time the I-cord was just way too tight. Stephen West has a great boosted I-cord, is what he calls it, tutorial. And basically you're just adding another row to your I-cord. So at the beginning of an I-cord edge, you knit the 3 stitches. Well, then you just transfer them back and knit them again. And because of how your yarn's pulling around, it is still creating that I-cord. It's just extra rows of it, so it's more stretchy. So I did that and absolutely needed 2 rows every round for the garter portion. But then by the time I was doing that in the brioche section, the I-cord was just way too loose. And so I could have gone back and just done boosted I-cord less, which would have been fine. But I also didn't like the garter tab at the top. And I knit 100 rows of the brioche. I took a picture of where I frogged it. So what I ended up doing was ripping it out, and I also decided to change my colors. So originally I had the lime green, I had it more like this. You can see the pattern more, and it doesn't look as bright on camera, I don't think, but in person it's a lot of green. And I was losing all of the hand-dyed goodness that came with this, what makes me think of tie-dye yarn. So I decided to change. Even if I wasn't gonna see the pattern as much, I wanted to change the colors and just have a squishy, nice scarf to wear, or shawl that I usually wear like a scarf. So I did 2 things. I took out the garter tab and just started a brioche shawl and did a lot of increases. And it is not perfect. It's not going to be flat. There is a good dip there, but I do not care at all. Also, it's on the back of your neck. Like if you wear a shawl normally, that dip kind of makes it fit on your neck a little bit. So that's kind of nice. But then I just did increases and a straight section until I got to the first little detail. And so I knew that this might cause problems with yardage. I mean, I think the reason she designed the shawl with the garter section is very smart, because you're using your background yarn, which you're kind of using less of. I'm doing all my increases and yarn overs and or not yarn over, all the yarn overs, but increases and details with my first color. So when you're doing 2-color brioche, if it's a complicated pattern, I feel like you always run out of your contrast color, that color that you're seeing the pattern on, not your background color. Like I have more of this than this. So, I mean, that's just my experience. So that seems like a really cool idea to lessen that difference in yardage. I just didn't like how it was looking and what was happening. So I just changed it. And I'm not in love with this. Honestly, my gauge, it's spot on, but it's tighter than I like brioche. I like it to be a little looser and drapier. So it's not my favorite, but I love the yarn and I'm obsessively knitting on it because now I'm playing yarn chicken. And so I'm waiting to see, but because I have more of this yarn, I'm gonna knit until I'm out of this and then do my bind off in this. So I think I'll maximize how much I get out of it. And I'll probably knit a sport version of this someday. This seems like a good project to spin for, especially in sport weight. That would be that's a nice weight to spin. So I will probably make another one of these. The next thing I'm working on is the Timberline by Jared Flood. I didn't put the price on my notes, so I'll put it up. And this had a rough start too. I swatched and cast on. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I put this down to work on the brioche shawl, and I just wanted to get this cast on and started, but because I had so many issues at the beginning, I put this off, picking this back up, and so now I think I'm gonna have to redo this. Man, I'm so discouraged. I pulled this out and I'm using 2 different needles and I'm like, nope, don't remember anything about what I was doing now. If this had been on Magic Loop, I probably would have just kept knitting the ribbing. That is frustrating, but oh well. Okay, but so I'm probably gonna cast that back on. Honestly, now that I say that though, if I have to undo the sleeve, I don't know that I'm gonna do that. Also, you're alternating skeins in cables and you're starting on the cuff of the sleeve. So you're starting sleeve and then going up. And that's frustrating. So ideally, like, this is a gorgeous sweater, but that seems like a lot of yarn management. And if it's too frustrating and not interesting enough, I'm not going to be motivated to work on it. So what I might do is save this yarn for something else for my husband, maybe something more vanilla that I won't mind alternating skeins in. So this is me making a decision in real time because I didn't realize I forgot so much about this project already. And this, friends, is why you take notes. Don't be like me and think you took notes and you didn't, and now you have to frog projects. Fun. That is all my works in progress. I did spin a little bit this week. I'm gonna finish up this braid so that I can get to the Neighborhood Fiber Company braid I bought because I'm really, really excited to spin that up. And I'm not sure what it's gonna be yet. I need to remind myself of the fiber content. But what I really kind of want it to be is to spin for a pair of socks because I've never done that. And I kind of want to spin for a pair of socks. Oh, and you know what? Andrea Mowry just came out with that sock pattern that she did designed with her hand spun in mind. maybe I'll look into doing that. But other than that, it's really been a lot of homeschool planning and sickness. So let's get into that. Okay, so projects and planning, I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly because I did a lot. I was stash busting and I talked about putting some projects together, putting them in Ziplocs and setting them in a bin so that I have a to-go bin ready to go. And that did not eat up as much stash as I thought it would. So I have the next 28 projects planned in my queue, and they're not all massive projects. So some of them are small and decorative, but the other nice feature is that I linked the yarn in my stash to the queue. So now I know I want to do this project with this yarn, but then I also, in the Ziploc bag in the basement, because I'm absolutely not losing my entire stash to wool moths. So my yarn is in Ziploc bags inside storage bins. So I just put them in more Ziploc bags and put labels in them for what pattern I'm gonna use. And that was fun. And it got me excited to use some of my stash. So I'm gonna talk about some of the projects that are like up and coming that I'm excited about now that I'm like ready to go. So I talked about the Miserina yarn last time. I still need to cake that up and swatch it. I kind of didn't expect this project to take as long, but to be fair, I knit 3/4 of it and then frogged it. So I kind of knit it twice. And I have this sweater, so that might not happen quite yet, but I need to do that, but I have a feeling I'm gonna be dyeing a contrast skein for the color work portion. You know what? I might see if I have enough scraps of something that's maybe variegated. I'll look at my stash and see if I've got anything and don't have to dye something up, because that would be fantastic. Last time I also talked about the ginger snap sweater for a baby. I don't think I'm gonna go with that. I wasn't really terribly excited about it. And I found this other blanket that's called the baby sheep blanket. I'll put a picture. And it's fabulous and adorable. And I kind of think that's what I'm gonna do. They are not finding out if the baby is a boy or a girl. It is going to be a surprise. So I feel like this is gender neutral enough for me. It has pink and blue. Anyway, so I'm really, really excited about this, but I don't have yarn yet. This baby isn't coming for a little bit, so I've got time. The guys at Needles at the Ready are having a knit along through the end of November. It's a Stephen West knit along, and I am going to make the Hyber knitting cowl. Again, my goal was to use stash, so I was trying to find something of his that I probably had enough stash of. And I've got a ton of Knit Picks palette, so this will be perfect. And I can always use a cowl like this. I've actually been wanting to knit one kind of like this, like a tube cowl like that in color work. I love that style. So I'm excited about that. I haven't picked my colors yet, but when I do, I'll share. The springy ring mitts. They're like jelly roll mittens with like jelly rolls. They're so cute. And I have this yarn that I dyed a while ago. This was like a dye mop, or like I had leftover dye. And so it's just pink and purple. And my daughter will love it. So one of my friends at Knit Night, when her kids were little, she used to just knit a whole skein, a bunch of mittens, and then you wear them, right? I'm gonna knit as many mittens as I can out of this color. And so then you lose a mitten, you got a replacement, and it matches. I thought that was such a genius idea. So she would just make a bunch of brown mittens for her kids, and oh, that's so smart. So I'm gonna make those for Stella again to use stash. Another project I planned out that I'm really excited about is the Beautiful Day, and it's a shawl. I'll put a picture up, and then I'm gonna put a picture of the yarn that I'm using. And so this is another one of I'm trying to get into using 2 different weights of yarn together and see how that works. So it's a lace weight with a fingering weight. And so the lace portion is just going to be extra airy. So that I'm excited about that, to see how that knits up. The Ribblesdale vest I'm really excited about, and I'm using Avita, which is a fuzzy yarn, and I think it's gonna be really, really cool, nice. The Camille top, also a really cool one I'm excited about. But this might get pushed back to next year as we are nearing fall in Michigan. So I don't think I'm gonna be knitting a tank top anytime soon. But I'm gonna use the Luxe, Knit Picks a Luxe, I think in Royal. And I think that's what it's called, but it's a deep purple and silver lurex, so it's sparkly. And it's very drapey, it's an alpaca. And so it's very hot, so it's perfect for things like a tank top under a shirt. And yeah, I'm hoping it's good. Again, I bought a bunch of this and I need to use it, and I have no idea what to do with it. I'm excited about my Christmas knits too. I know I'm jumping ahead, but the Harry Potter sorting hat is going to be our tree topper, and I'm so excited about it. But here's a picture of it. I have the yarn ready to go. And then for our tree, I'm also going to do this super cute popcorn garland crochet pattern that I thought looked really nice. So yeah, those are just some of the highlights of things that I have coming that I'm excited about. Although, again, I planned 29 projects, so we'll see, you know, I'm sure I'll change the order of what I want to work on. Tiffany from the Woolen Homestead, we talked about our collaboration. She gave me a Laughing Lamb Fibers sheep study that she wasn't going to use. So I've got these 2-ounce bundles. So this one is Oatmeal BFL Blue Faced Luster. Oh, this is nice. Brown Icelandic. Targi. They're just natural colors. This is pretty. Mixed Icelandic. Cheviot, which is cream, and then Rambouillet, which is cream, and Kent Romney, which is also a cream. And they're all 2-ounce bundles. So I have it right here. I talked about this before, that I want to work through the Certificate of Excellence in Hand Spinning, just in my spare time, eventually, years down the road, right? So, but there are sections of samples in here, and this would be perfect. I think you only need 1-ounce samples too. Yeah. So I'm gonna look through here and see what, if anything, I want to do with that, or if I just want to play with it. So I'm still getting used to the matchless and trying to adjust it. I have it set up in double drive, which I love, and boy, but I also can see the Magicraft Aura, the hybrid double drive, where you can adjust individually and adjust the double drives, which, oh my gosh, that's so cool. But I can now see why that is such a cool feature. But I love double drive. It is so nice. I barely have to touch it the entire time to adjust anything. And that is now finally the end of plotting in purchases. So for homeschool / life stuff / what have we been up to? We have just been getting ready for our school year. So today I'm recording on Sunday, and we are doing a soft start to school, which means we're gonna do half days. We weren't gonna do this. We were just gonna jump right in the week after, which is the first week that my husband is teaching as well. 2 things changed my mind. We went to Wisconsin Dells with my father-in-law. They have a timeshare, and so we were at the Wilderness Lodge. We were at the Glacier Canyon something building, but that's where the timeshares are. It was a cool place to go, though. There was so much that was included. All the water parks were included, and there were some indoor ones and outdoor ones, and lots of treats and things to eat. We had ice cream, and I took so few pictures. But we also did the activities pack. So we had unlimited access to a few things that were nice. We thought it was a steal of a price. It was $50 a person for your whole trip. So for 5 days, we had access to all this stuff, and we did this stuff every day. But it was like mini golf, go-karts. There was a sky maze, which my daughter has been asking about a sky maze because she saw it on a YouTube video. So she lost it. We literally did it every day. And honestly, at the end of the trip, when we said, what was your favorite thing? Both me and my daughter said the sky maze. It was cool. So we did, and then climbing walls. They had like a 4-story indoor playground, which was super cool. They played on that playground forever, and that was included with anything. Everybody could do that. And there was laser tag, so my kid did a ton of laser tag. My oldest really enjoyed that. But yeah, it was so much fun. They had a 2-level lazy river. I am not kidding. It was the coolest. So to get from the top level to the bottom, you went down a slide. And then to get back up, it was like a conveyor belt. Now, I will say we did it like 3 times, and like that was enough. Like you had to wait in line for the slide to get down and wait in line for the conveyor belt. So you could just bypass it and stay on one level. And that's what you really wanted to do. Anyway, we had a good time, but we got COVID and brought it home, and that sucks. We luckily were all vaccinated and boosted, and it has been very mild in our house. Nobody has lingering symptoms of anything. We've healed pretty quickly. That's very good. So, I mean, you can tell I still have very little voice. But anyway, so that's kind of what's been going on with us, but we're really, really excited to start our school day. So for our first week, we're just doing math, reading, language arts, and routines. So how are we going to structure our day? What are we liking? What are we not? And, what time of day works best for us. We also are, all of our play dates and all of that stuff start up again over the school year. So our social stuff starts up again too. So kind of letting that stuff trickle in is kind of nice too. We're going to do end of first day pictures because I know the first half of the day is going to be in PJs. So end of day school pictures. My oldest is in 6th grade this year, and I am so excited. His biology is high school biology, but over the span of a year, it is considered high school because we're doing the microscope labs that go with it. So that's exciting. And then what else? Ancient history across the board, but we have 2 different age level curriculums, an elementary and a middle school. And the middle school is really cool and really in depth and very writing based and research based. And that's the goal of that curriculum at that age, is to get them into independent researching and writing about history. It's not about memorizing facts. It's about what do you do with the things you're reading and how do you critically analyze the sources you're looking at. So it's a lot of that stuff, and I'm really excited. Stella's stuff is still pretty fun and hands-on, which of course, she's 2nd grade. It's been nice because we really didn't do school over the summer at all. And we focused on things like encouraging reading and encouraging better habits, like playing outside more, less screen time, things like that. But there has been huge improvement in her reading and writing, even over the summer. Life is learning. We can learn at any time. And I think that's one of the things I want to impart to my children is how do you take school, what you're learning in school, and how you're learning in school into real life learning and as an adult, and to continue that pattern of having that self-drive to look into things yourself. I'm rambling at this point though. I'm just so excited. So I'm all planned and ready to go for the entire year. The only thing I don't really have, so we have our core subjects, but we unschool special interests, which is, for Stella, that's like, it can be anything. It could be art, it could be learning, deeper diving into some topic we learned in our core subject. Again, we have core subjects. So this is like our just elective stuff. And so that's, it's basically what I utilize to teach things like health, about our body, how to care for our body. And it's so weird because that's really just life stuff, right? To me, the health lessons are like, I don't have to teach health. I don't think that's on the list actually for Michigan. Now that I say that, I should look. But as a parent, these are conversations I need to be having with my kids regardless of if they're in public school or not. So this doesn't feel like a part of our homeschool. This just feels like parenting. But in a sense, homeschooling, like I think I said this when I was reading Wild and Free, homeschooling is an extension of parenting. It is more like parenting than it is teaching a classroom, which having taught in a classroom, I completely agree. We're adjusting this year. So our mornings are math, language arts, reading, our real core subjects, right? And then science and history, which both of those are pretty hands-on. Like the projects in those subjects are bigger and take more time. So one thing that we learned last year is diverting our attention multiple times a day is not beneficial. So instead of trying to do science and history Monday through Friday, we are going to do 2 days on, 2 days off. Monday and Wednesday is science. Tuesday and Thursday is history. I wanted to split them up because it's beneficial for children to have tiny breaks to process what they learned the day before jumping back into that subject. You're more likely to think through that stuff over the span of the week than if I had Monday and Tuesday as history, and then I could turn that part of my brain off for the rest of the week, which is 5 days instead of, whatever. That was the thought process behind that, but then they won't have to redirect. Another thing that's interesting, my kids are super active, so we encourage outdoor play and we do things like soccer and things like that. They play soccer. They will start soccer soon. So their physical activity is really just playing. It's whatever we decide to do, but of course we're trying to encourage better habits. And a good example of that is over the summer we started exercising as a family again, which we did last summer, which was nice and good to get us moving first thing in the morning and, just moving our body. So we're trying to encourage things like that. My children both take piano lessons. We're adding a nature homeschool class at the Chippewa Nature Center this year. We're doing 3 out of 4 of the sessions, and they're such a good deal. It's an hour and a half 3 times for $20 a kid, and the second kid and over is 18. So fabulous deal. So they're doing that this year. And the co-op I talked about starting at the beginning of this podcast is like actually getting running. So we are meeting every Friday. We have a room booked, and we have a big community room that holds like 120. So it's a good size at a library, which is great. So I'm really excited about that and to see the future of that. And this year, the goal for the co-op is to get the spine of the co-op running. And then hopefully special interest groups and like more club-like things will get up off the ground the second half of the year. And then next year, maybe we'll have multiple days and locations. Who knows? I know that as things grow, things will change. But for now, that's what we are looking at. And it's a good place to be starting. We do have another homeschool play date that comes to our house on Thursdays, which is fabulous. There's 4 of us, 4 families that meet up at this point. And yeah, it's really cool. So we'll probably add more social stuff as we go. We'll see. That's a lot at once. So, and my kids we have other homeschoolers in our neighborhood, so they play outside a lot. We've still got a few months of a lot of outside time. So I am not worried that they will get enough socializing at all. I was going to have a quick conversation about, I told you I was starting Accutane. I finally got into a dermatologist. I have a condition that progressed due to stress in the middle of grad school, which is part of why it was such a hard time for me. It was a really bad time. And I am very open and honest about that and willing to elaborate, but it's not really relevant right now. But anyway, this disease, it's called hidradenitis suppurativa, developed further. So it progressed. It is a chronic, systemic, which means it's throughout your whole body, inflammatory disease that is caused by an overactive immune system. So my body literally attacks itself and causes inflammation, which then causes boils from internal, not from MRSA getting into a cut or something getting in, internally. Anyway, so this all started, and there isn't really a treatment for it. So it's one of those things that management is the goal. And there are some complications with that. The complications with that can be due to antibiotics, overprescribing of antibiotics. And that definitely happened to me in the beginning of this when we didn't know what was going on. And how I have to try to underuse antibiotics so that if I ever need them, they're gonna work for me. So that's frustrating, and it's mostly about management. I am going to put a huge privilege disclaimer here because I have so much privilege when it comes to this. First off, when this was happening to me, I was in a job where I was in control. Like if I was sick and I couldn't find someone to cover my class, you just cancel the rest. You had to cancel it. Like I was teaching it in college while I was in grad school. And so I had that freedom. But also I was at a university in a well-funded department, which had a lot of technology. So when I had outbreaks, typically these happen in the groin and the armpit area. I think might be different in men, but still there might be additional regions. I don't know. But anyway, there were multiple classes that I had to write my notes on my iPad so I could project them on the screen with all this technology was there and set up and easy to use. And I had that accessibility at my fingertips. So when I couldn't raise my arm to write on a chalkboard, I could do that. So that in itself was a huge, huge workplace privilege that I want to acknowledge. The other big privilege that I have in this situation is I currently am homeschooling. And any work I do is from home. One of the things that helps is heat. So heat will cause increased blood flow to the surface of the skin, increased blood flow, increased white blood cells, fighting infection. It's also helpful for pain relief. It massively helps reduce pain and inflammation. Anyway, so heat is really one of the best management tools that I have. And I have heating pads in my house, multiple. And I can go upstairs 4 or 5 times a day and lay down for 30 minutes and put heat on it. And even if I don't have the time to not do anything, I can take my computer to the bed with me. I can take a homeschool lesson and a child to my bed with me. In fact, when we had COVID, we were reading books and playing card games in bed. So there is a huge amount of privilege and flexibility in how I'm able to manage it. Accutane has only been proven, and not very conclusively, in my opinion, but in very mild cases to help HS. So this is not necessarily something that's going to help, but we're hopeful that it will keep me from being on an alternative medication, which is something that I would have to be on forever. So this is a possible permanent solution, but I'm trying to be hopeful but realistic too, which is a weird place to be. That's all I have for homeschool life. Let's get to learning. All right, so for personal learning, I've really not read a lot. But I have been listening to a lot of podcasts. But for books, I'm still reading Half Sick of Shadows by Sebastian. It is a female retelling of the King Arthur story. It's an additional character. Really, really good. I'm really, really enjoying it. I have the digital copy on my phone too, but I haven't been reading this because I was obsessively knitting on this and trying to figure this out. So I hadn't really been working on my socks to do any kind of physical reading. I am on the wait list for the audiobook for this, and I'm excited about that. So that is what I've been reading on and off. The thing I was reading on vacation, though, I'm not even done with this book, but I can't believe how much I've highlighted. I've probably highlighted half the book, but it's called Hunt, Gather, Parent, and I'm going to put the name up here because I can't remember. I didn't write it down. And it's fabulous. It is an NPR journalist it's all about Eurocentricity and parenting advice and how the Western world is actually an outlier in so many ways. And it is a in-depth study of 3 different cultures and what makes their parenting superior and what they're known for. So the first culture visited is the Mayans, and they are known as helpers, and they have this whole encomiendo, I want to say, although I'm not looking at the word, so I don't know off the top of my head. But it's this whole idea of we all live here, we all help, and XYZ. And so far, it's so good. It's so good. And it's all, looking at the Western world parenting advice and at face value. And I think it's so good. Here's the problem. Because we were on vacation and I wasn't really reading it, I have to wait for it to come back. I did have the audiobook, but because it was so good and I was highlighting so much, I really, really wanted to be physically reading it so I could highlight instead of just listen. So I'm not going to go into depth about this book, but there was so much good info. One of the things I really liked about it was that it talks about blurring the lines of the adult world and the kid world and bringing your child into your world and the benefits of that. And so that talks about the difference between child-centered activities, which are activities that you would not do if you were not a parent, and lessening those, but increasing X, Y, and Z and why. Kids don't need ridiculously fancy activities. They honestly would just have as much fun spending a morning in the kitchen cooking with you and using life as some of the time you're spending with your kids, and how in our culture we rush to get things done while the kids are doing something else instead of doing those tasks with our kids. And what are the benefits of them seeing those tasks? Well, it's not just that they're going to be more helpful. It's that they're going to notice when things need to be done and do it without prompting. And that is the goal. But this whole not blurring the adult lines, but bringing your kids into your adult world. And one of my favorite memes is, it is saying, I just talk to kids like they're 40, and if they have questions, we slow down. And that's literally what I think I've been saying since I became a parent. I just don't dumb things down for my kids. It has massively benefited them. But it also creates this level of trust in this when they feel like you respect them and want to be around them in all situations, not just kid situations. It tells them you value them as a person, as you value the adults in your life. What are my takeaways so far? Well, my takeaways are that I don't need to be playing dolls with my daughter to spend quality time with her. I can incorporate her into what I have to get done in that day and things like that. So I'm going to include them more. We're gonna work on, maybe while mom does some chores, Eli works on making lunch or whatever. We're going to do more collaborative stuff in our day. And again, this comes back to the privilege that I am homeschooling right now. That is these are things I can do right now because they're in my physical vicinity, right? So we're gonna start doing some of that. And I love everything about it. I cannot wait to get it back, to finish reading it. And it might be a book that I end up purchasing because it's just so good. Listening to podcast wise, we listen to a lot of Star Talk on our drive to Wisconsin. We listen to some Off Menu, which is a food podcast that my husband likes a lot. And, but podcasts that I've been listening to, just education or while I'm knitting, I listened to, I want to say it was season 41, but I'll double check, of American Scandal. And it was on the DuPont spill, which was in West Virginia. And I was listening to this and so into it, but also I remember the discussions of this for years and years and years. And I highly recommend American Scandal anyway. Did I talk about the Hare Krishna murder one? Maybe I didn't talk about this, but like we took the kids to New Vindobin in West Virginia, the big commune that, the big Hare Krishna commune that was kind of overtaken by the radicals in the movement. Of course it was. Of course that's what was in West Virginia. Anyway, but we like went there. My friend sent me a message. She was like, you should listen to this. And I was like, oh, that's bananas. Great. So then I started listening to the DuPont one, and it's really good too. And it's only 4 episodes. I think the biggest takeaway for me is how long it took for this to get resolved and all the shady stuff DuPont was doing to get out of paying medical costs for knowingly poisoning people. It was a lot, but it was really, really good. I highly recommend. First off, I like American Scandal. It's pretty good so far. I haven't only listened to 2 full seasons and then like half of Watergate. But so far I really enjoy it. Thank you guys for coming. If you would like and subscribe, comment below. It helps with our algorithms to get out there. But thank you so much for coming. And I hope that before the next episode, I have the collaboration out and ready to go for you guys because it was fun. And we did some trivia questions and yeah, we just had a good time. But I'll see you next time.